Now, one of the questions just came up was, how do you learn to navigate these politics?
Uh, you get punched in the face a few times.
Okay.
So it's like, how do you become a good boxer? Right? You get hit a few times. How do you become a good racer? You fall down a lot of times. I used to do triathlon racing, and I did it for a while. And honestly, I just got bored with it. So I like lifting weights now. But one of the jokes that we always had is when you were getting ready for a race, the morning of the race, and you line your bikes up, you could tell who the seasoned riders were, because the really seasoned professional athletes, their bikes were all scratched and banged up. The folks that had the brand new bikes with no scratches or nothing, you were like, those are the newbies. And right, you sort of stay away from them, because the question is this: how fast can you take a turn on your bike? The only way you know is you take a turn and you don't fall over. Okay, you take it a little faster, little faster. Well, at some point, you're going to fall over and go, oh, I guess that was too fast. Slow it down a little bit. But the only way you know is by pushing the limits and actually crashing. You have to crash and make mistakes in order to learn. So it's going to be the same thing. When I first got in to being a chief information security officer, I stepped in it a lot of times, but that's how you learn. You go in. And I remember one of the first meetings, there was a vice president that was acting really nice to me before the meeting. And then in the meeting, he was like, hey, Eric, why don't you do that? And he was essentially setting me up because he knew that my opinions were different than the CEO's. And he didn't tell me, and he encouraged me. So basically in that meeting, I got slammed pretty hard by the executives. And I walked out of there and I'm like, I guess I thought that guy was my friend, but okay, I need to be more careful. Lesson learned, right? And you learn the lesson. So some things you can learn from books, some things you can learn from mentorship, and some things like politics, you learn just by getting beat up, cut up, and stepping in, and you just sort of, and that's why experience matters. That's why a CISO that's been doing it for 20 or 30 years matters, because they've made all the mistakes. And that's what my students tell me that I coach. I have a coaching program for CISOs, and I ask them after the program, I said, what did you like the most about coaching? They go, Eric, you made the mistake so we didn't have to. You basically told us what was going to happen if we continued down a path, and that it was going to end badly. So we learned from your mistakes. So some of it is just, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. You can't be afraid for things to go wrong, and you just shake it off and get back up again and try again.
Well, I mean, that's great advice. I mean, also I want to add into that is like you said, having the right mentor, right? Yep. That's good. Like you said, you got a course coming up that people can go and take. It's a CISO course. That's the mentorship will kind of walk you through the bottlenecks, the mind lines, how to work through that. But also on top of that, make sure you have a good support network. Like people that you can go talk to after, because we all have bad days, and having that outlet of not only working out, eating healthy, but someone you can talk to about your day and kind of go through what happened. You can debrief. A lot of successful people actually write journals, right? They actually write journals and they debrief all that what's in their head at the end of the day and just kind of let it out, right? And the other thing is learn how to communicate. I think that was one of the key things I had. I actually started taking a negotiation course. Right. Chris Voss has one, Never Split the Difference, and you can take his books and all that. But learning how to properly negotiate through any of these helps you to leverage your communication, but also understand the team, the counterparts, and people in the office, so that you don't step into it, so that you understand where they're coming from. You don't say things that are out of context when they are thinking something else. So those are keys that I've learned through my experience of networking, communicating, working with CISOs is, you really want to be able to communicate and articulate in a very professional way, but you're negotiating a lot of things: time, budget, resources, technology, the organization, company. So those are some recommendations on top of, the great advice Dr. Cole was giving.
And I just want to go on that, because what Brandon just gave you was solid gold. Is I will tell you, I turned 51 this year. And when I look back, all problems, not some, all problems in any area of my life, whether it's in personal, relationship, marriage, kids, work, executives, every single problem I've had in my life is caused by a lack of or failure to communicate effectively. If you are an effective communicator, you can not only accomplish anything, but you can get people to follow you, listen to you, and move things forward. And I think that's a huge problem because a lot of technical people think they're better communicators than they really are. I can't tell you how many times I sit in meetings where a CISO presents a disastrous meeting to the executives because they didn't communicate at all. It was all about them and technology. And I walk out of the meeting with them. I'm like, how do you think it went? And they're like, dude, I owned it. I crushed it. I was the mess. And I'm like, dude, you owned belly flopping. You own the master of this. I said, that was awful. I said, you did not effectively communicate at all. So as Brandon said, pay close attention to that, because if you're not getting what you want, if people are not writing you the checks or giving you the resources, there's one reason and one reason alone, and it's because you are not doing well on the communication piece.